And welcome again to another John's Media World Extra. Boy, we got a lot of stuff today. I mean, there's just an outpouring of bad information out there. The Trump administration is in overdrive. So let's get to the very first story, and is the Trump passport. Okay. The State Department will put a sitting president, not a dead one, on the official U.S. travel document, your passport. I've got a little story here, so let's listen.
The United States State Department announced a limited edition United States passport for America's 250th anniversary. It includes an image of President Donald Trump, making him the first living president on the official travel document. The design was approved late Monday after being in the works for several months. About 25,000 to 30,000 passports go to applicants at the Washington, D.C. passport facility near July 4th. Officials said it becomes the standard in-person option there, while regular passports remain available online and elsewhere. The interior shows Trump's photo above a gold imprint of his signature, plus a 250 American flag on the back cover.
Okay, that's the story. Now, I have up here on the screen, just here, I'll show you what it is. You can check that out. That's the picture of Dorian Gray. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. That is in the movie from the 1940s. Great movie, very scary stuff. And as you can see, it's in color, but the movie itself was in black and white. So when we finally saw the portrait of Dorian Gray in the attic, that's what we saw, a color picture of it. It wasn't black and white. It was just an amazing, shocking end of the movie. Is really good stuff. Anyway, my thought on this is that, and I could be wrong on this. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I probably am, but I went as far as to say that I think Trump is Dorian Gray in reverse. He's putting his picture on everything, a youthful, strong picture on all the things that he can, while he, and this is a description of Dorian Gray himself, he, as he ages, bears the marks of his sins. There you go. And that's the picture here that you see on the screen, bearing the marks of his sins. So anyway, he's Dorian Gray in reverse. I'm just pulling it out of the clear blue. Look, overthinking this stuff. I get it. All right, anyway, these Trump passports are at the Washington Passport Agency. Customers can choose, of course, not having his picture on it. Wow, can you imagine showing somebody your passport and Trump's pictures on it? You know, the rest of the world doesn't see Trump in the same way the MAGA see him. Okay. All right. Now, this follows, of course, it'll put a list together here. The National Park Service's new park passes stamped with Trump's picture. The Treasury Department's plan, a $1 coin and commemorative gold coin with Trump's Forever Young image on it. And a few ex-users had to respond to this passport idea. One wrote, "And the cult obsession continues." By the way, the White House had to come back on all of this stuff. They released a D.C. Metro card with Obama's picture on it, celebrating his inauguration. Okay, so there were a couple of people who responded to that. Listen to this. One user replied, "You can't seriously be comparing a one-day Metro ticket to a U.S. passport with a 10-year validity." Or another wrote, "You're equating a commemorative inauguration Metro card to a passport?" Another one asked, "One-off Inauguration Day special ticket is not the same as a permanent picture on a passport that lasts for 10 years. Is it?" They all had some really, really, really good thoughts. Okay. Now, we've got more on Trump coming up a little bit later. I want to get to something here about Brendon Carr, FCC chair. He is, of course, going after Disney, and he definitely has a bug up his craw here. And let's listen to what he had to say here.
There's lots of options. You have a license. The licenses come due every so often. You can accelerate when a license come due and say, hey, we have significant concerns about you conducting your operations. We want to review your license now. and decide if you're in the public interest. If we find that a broadcaster hasn't been doing that, then the statute requires us to issue a hearing designation order. And that's a multi-month process then to go through a hearing, decide whether you get to keep your license or not. And those are all remedies that are on the table. I mean, ultimately, whether we pull a license for a big broadcaster like that will be decided by their own conduct. I'd be surprised if we ultimately don't go down the path of license revocation for some, but it will be up to them in their own conduct.
Their conduct. So that's really going to be the bottom line for them. It's not their community service. It's not everything they put together all year long or as long as it takes to apply for this license or reapply each and every time. You know, all of these stations, these 6 stations are going to target, have put all of this information together. They've been doing their job. So there's really no hang up here. The only hang up is Kimmel. That's the only thing. And of course, this will go to the courts, and the FCC is definitely going to lose, and they're going to look stupid at the very same time. But of course, they're doing a very good job of that currently. That's Brendon Carr, FCC chair and advocate for Trump getting these people off the air. I think that is government censorship. Now I know I'm right on that. I couldn't be wrong on that. Anyway, let's get to this. Republicans Against Trump posted this, and they wrote this. This is fascism. This is what they do in authoritarian countries. This is cancel culture on steroids. See, when they complain about cancel culture, it's projection. They wish they had done that. Okay. And they continue. Where's the outrage? They were outraged. Biden had asked social media to police public health misinformation that endangered Americans' lives. Now, that's not politics. They're just trying to save people's lives and save them from pain, taking the wrong kind of medications being put out there by the administration, by Republicans, by the MAGA. That's all it was. In this case, they are truly shutting down networks because of criticism. Where are they now? Right? Trump is, I don't know if he's afraid. He's paranoid as heck. We already know that. We talked about that yesterday because of his malignant narcissism. But at the same time, they're going after all the enemies of Trump. So I don't know if there's really anything to the seashells on the seashore that Comey put together and the ridiculous, silly, trumped-up charges on this. But I do want to get to what Caitlin Collins, she questioned Trump on this thing. Boy, they're out there right away on this, aren't they? Well, anyway, let's watch Caitlin Collins and Trump.
Talking about how busy you were this morning. James Comey was in court. He self-surrendered. He's now been charged a second time, this time over a social media post with seashells that said 8647. Do you really think that he was endangering your life or threatening your life with that post?
Well, if anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill him. You know? You ever see the movies? 86 him.
It's in the movie.
The mobster says to one of his wonderful associates, 86 him. That means kill him. It's, I think of it as a mob term. I don't know.
It's a restaurant
People
term.
think of it as something having to do with disappearing, but the mob uses that term to say when they want to kill somebody, they say, 86, the son of a gun. I'm trying to keep the language nice and clear. They don't use that term, son of a gun. They use another term.
What
but
term
that's
would
a
that
mob
be?
term for kill him. Yeah.
But do you really think your life was in danger?
Probably. I don't know. You know, based on what I'm seeing out there, yeah, the people like Comey have created tremendous danger, I think, for politicians and others. Comey is a dirty cop. He's a very dirty cop. He cheated on the elections. He tried to help Hillary Clinton, as you know. He dismissed a lot of things that he should have proceeded with. I wasn't involved, but he should have proceeded with. No, he's a dirty cop. He's a crooked man.
Yeah, they're all dirty and they're all crooked. Right? We know his outline on this. All right, now let's get to another discussion. This is a panel, and the legal analyst was with them on this and his point of view in regards to, do mobsters use 86 to tell people to wipe people out or kill them?
You're someone who's prosecuted over what? 100 mob family members. Does 86 mean murder in mob parlance? Tell us.
Well, Caitlin, there was a point in my life where I spent the better part of my waking hours either talking face-to-face with real-world mobsters or listening to them talk to each other over wiretaps or body wires or bugs. I dealt with all 5 families: Gambino, Genovese, Bonanno, Lucchese, Colombo. I dealt with bosses, underbosses, consigliaries, capos, soldiers, associates, all the way down the line. Never, ever, not once did I hear any real-world gangster use the term 86 to refer to a murder or anything. And God knows these guys had colorful lingo, but never that phrase 86. I don't know where the president getting this from. He said from some movie. They don't use that term in Godfather or Sopranos or Goodfellas, maybe some way old-timey movie, but that's not reality. The other piece of the interview you did, Caitlin, with the president in the Oval Office that I found really interesting, when you asked that follow-up, did you truly believe your life was in danger? The first thing he said was, probably, I don't know. And then he sort of eventually said, well, I guess so, yeah. Probably, I don't know, right there, that's an acquittal, because prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the victim believed that his life was in jeopardy. And if the jury comes back at probably, I don't know, that's a not guilty right there. I thought that was a really important moment.
Anyway, let's get to another part of this, and that is the actual number 8647. Okay. So 8647 is what Comey had there in the seashells on the seashore, and that is why he's being charged. A threat against the president. Now, yesterday I mentioned that Jack Posobiec sold T-shirts on his podcast that said 8646, which is Biden. All right, so now we have some blowback on that. Here's AG Todd Blanche showing no interest in Jack Posobiec's sale of shirts of the 8646. The Department of Justice is busy policing posts by Trump's perceived enemies, not friendly podcasters. So let's watch this.
Well known in right-wing circles, Jack Posobiec posted on X 8646. He did not take it down. He did not apologize. Mr. Comey has done both of those things. The Biden Justice Department never prosecuted him. By the standard of that grand jury, Jack Posobiec should face charges as well. Will the Justice Department pursue that case? Because they sound very similar.
That's just completely not true. That's not how a grand jury does its work. They don't just look at a single image and then say, okay,
that's what you did.
We'll indict, or okay, no, we won't indict. They do an investigation. I have no idea whether there was an investigation into the other times that post has been made and whether that investigation yielded different results. This investigation that we undertook resulted in a 2-count indictment. So you cannot compare, well, what happened last time, what happened this time. Every investigation is different.
But I will look into it. We're waiting for that, right? He never says
that. The American people know that. A lot of factors going into whether go into whether somebody should or should not be charged. The mere fact that there's a similar photo posted or similar statement made, that's true every day. There's comments made about President Trump, threats made against President Trump. Every one of those are not indicted. It depends on the facts of every case.
There you go. Facts of every case, and he is not going to look into Jack Posobiec's T-shirt sale or anybody else who has shirts like that 8646. Oh, all right. Took a little break there. That was a lot of stuff that we just had. Now let's get to more of it. This time it's the Christian right, Christian nationalists. And there's a little battle within. I think it has a lot to do with men and women, men versus women in the church, being Christians, speaking for Christ. That's what I think it's all about. So here is Christian nationalist pastor Joel Webbon. And he says that White House faith advisor Paula White is a witch.
Look at Paula White, the chief faith advisor to Donald Trump. You look at some of the clips of her like rolling on the ground or waving a coat and trying to slay people in the spirit and speaking in tongues. She's a witch. She's a witch. She's not just a Christian with some bad theology. She is a wolf. She's a false teacher. But even more than that, as a woman, I think that it is actually technically accurate to say, well, she's a false teacher in a general sense, but what particular kind of false prophet? She is a witch. She's a witch who casts spells.
There you go. A witch who casts spells. Now, I'm just trying to keep track here. There are a lot of false prophets on the right side of the aisle representing the church. There are Pharisees. We heard about that recently. And now we have witches competing for some kind of power on the Christian right. We'll see who wins this one. Now, this is a very tragic situation that took place just recently. Women are out when it comes to farming. This is really outrageous. And I want to know where the ag secretary is right now, and that is Brooke Rollins, because this is really an important issue. Now, this is from Reuters. The Trump administration rejected all 4 women farmers chosen by their peers to represent them in the United Soybean Board, a rare intervention by the Department of Agriculture that 3 of the women suspected was linked to their gender. They think it's because they're women that they weren't put on the board or taken off their nomination. So let's check this out.
The Trump administration has rejected all 4 women farmers chosen by their peers to serve on the United Soybean Board, a rare intervention in what has long been a routine approval process. Normally, soybean farmers nominate their own representatives, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture signs off. This year, the USDA rejected at least 5 nominees, including 4 women, without providing an explanation. The move comes as the Trump administration works to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DE&I, policies across the federal government.
That's the reason.
One of those rejected was Susan Watkins, a soybean farmer in Virginia who had served on the board for 6 years. A conservative who supports Trump, Watkins had been selected as treasurer, overseeing the board's 2026 budget. She said she was stunned when she learned her appointment had been overturned weeks after the board's first meeting, telling Reuters, quote, "We should be judged on our merit. It's very disheartening. I was on the path to become chair within several years, and that was taken away from me." 3 of the 4 women rejected told Reuters they suspected gender was a factor, especially after no women were appointed among 40 new and reappointed directors. The USDA declined to explain the rejections, saying only that the Agriculture Secretary selects board members from state nominees. The White House did not provide records related to the decision. As a result, women now hold just 5 seats on the 77-member Soybean Board, the lowest level in at least a decade, even though women make up more than a third of U.S. farmers.
There you go. Women off the soybean board, and for no particular reason except for the fact that they were women. And I think women and people of color will all be part of that DEI cleansing that took place or is taking place in the administration. It's their excuse for doing what they want, and that is to put white nationalists in charge of everything. It's going to be a white nation. Representative Pat Ryan revealed that Pete Hegseth ordered military members to an area in Kuwait with an active warning they had zero defense against drone attacks, but he ignored it. All right, so we're going to get to a clip here. This is worse than Benghazi. Let's watch.
Internal analysis had said the site was indefensible from aerial attack and should not be used. Yet you sent our soldiers from the 103rd Sustainment Command there anyway. Is that true or false? True or false? Straightforward question.
Are you going to give me a chance to answer or just play gotcha?
Did you send them there or not?
We took proactive measures from the beginning to ensure force protection and defensive posture were maximized across the theater.
Let's talk about what defenses they had. Prior to the attack, officers on the ground knew our troops were vulnerable. In fact, they requested additional force protection. Did they receive it?
Wherever humanly possible, force protection and counter UAS was always made available.
They did not. In fact, when asked to describe the base's defense, one survivor who's come forward from the unit said, quote, I would put it in the none category. From a drone defense capability, none.
All right. So here's a comment that I found just after that with that clip. I thought it hit home. Republicans grilled Hillary 11 hours over 4 dead Americans in Benghazi after their own GOP-controlled Congress slashed embassy security. Remember that? They tried to blame Hillary. Hegseth ignored an active warning, and the troops paid for it. That's the point of that conversation. But I want to get to a few notes here, okay? About 120 U.S. military veterans were arrested inside the Cannon House office building today, protesting Trump's war on Iran. It could have been yesterday, but anyway, this is what happened. Some were on crutches, some were in wheelchairs, some carried the burial flags of fallen soldiers. Again, 120 U.S. military veterans arrested inside the Cannon House office building. Another note, second one. 10,000 vets have lost their homes since Trump canceled the VAT loan interest mortgage program. Here's a story on that.
I want to tell you about a Marine who was wounded in Afghanistan. He came home with PTSD and had a brain injury. His family lived out of a trailer for 6 months while they waited for his disability paperwork to clear. They finally got back on their feet. They bought a house. Their son started at the elementary school across the street. For the first time in years, they felt stable. Last week, someone knocked on their front door and told them it was time to leave. Here's what happened. Like millions of Americans during COVID, this family used a mortgage forbearance program. That's a legal government-backed option that their lender told them would defer payments until the end of their loan. And then they got trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare. They weren't allowed to make payments. They weren't offered any real help. They were told to just keep applying for assistance that sadly never came. By early 2025, the VA had a rescue program up and running. It was called VASP, and it had already given more than 33,000 veterans new mortgages at 2.5% interest. It was working. But then on May 1st of last year, the Trump administration killed it. 1 week's notice, no replacement was ready. The mortgage industry warned explicitly at a congressional hearing, in fact, that without a replacement program, veterans would lose their homes. The Trump administration did it anyway. Since then, more than 10,000 veterans have lost their homes to foreclosure. It's the highest rate in a decade. Another 90,000, unfortunately, are heading in that same direction right now. That wounded Marine's family, the VA owns their house now. The only offer that the Marine's family got was $3,500 to vacate by April 3rd. So, look, this is such a sad situation. I've fought for veterans in Congress since the day I was sworn in, and I'm telling you, what this administration is doing to these families is a betrayal. You don't get to wrap yourself in the flag and then evict the people who serve for the country. So I'm going to keep pushing the VA to stand up a replacement program immediately, halt foreclosures for these families until that replacement program is ready, because this is a total disgrace, and these families can't get strung along any longer.
Yeah, so let's just build the ballroom, okay? All right. Sad stuff there, really, really outrageous stuff. Apparently something put in place to save these veterans, their homes, put in place by the Biden administration and then phased out by the Trump administration. Now, I'm not done yet. There's something else. Since U.S. intervention in the Middle East has had consequences in the past, I found this video unsettling. It could now have an impact on what happens in the future. This is CNN international correspondent reporting.
Martyrs martyrdom is a hugely important concept here in the Islamic Republic of Iran. We're currently at an event where hundreds of women hold their babies into the air to show that they're willing to offer their children as martyrs for God and for Imam Hussein. All of that goes back to the legendary Battle of Karbala, where Imam Hussein held his baby into the air, asking the enemy that was besieging Karbala to give the baby water, and instead the enemy killed the baby. Now, there's nothing more glorious here than dying as a martyr. And of course, right now, that concept takes on an even more important meaning as Iran is involved in this massive struggle with Israel and the United States.
We want to show them we are not scared of anything, she says, and will support our state until they are destroyed. And she says they need to know that Imam Hussein is our everything, and we should sacrifice our lives for Imam Hussein. This is a symbol saluting Imam Hussein, she says, who's the leader of all the oppressed who stand against oppressors and don't submit.
And just to show how big this is in Iran right now, the crowd here was chanting "Death to America, Death to Israel," and there was even a children's choir that was singing songs as videos were shown of Iran's missile program in action, and of course also when the Trump administration carried out those strikes against Iranian nuclear installations. In total, right now, as this conflict is taking place, all of this extremely important to the folks here.
And we thought we learned a lesson going into Iraq. All right, now let's get back to Hegseth and something he tried to pull at the hearing where he took a lot of questions and didn't answer many of them. This is something the Republicans use constantly when they're up in a hearing being asked questions. The typical Republican play during the hearings to testify, they will try to pass off a gotcha on you. Now, what I'm talking about here is this example. I'm going to play it for you. This is Pete Hegseth, and he brings up something right out of the clear blue, which is completely untrue, but it catches everybody by surprise, especially the questioner, a Democrat probably, and they don't know what to say, and they can't say anything because they've never heard of this thing before, and it has fulfilled its purpose. So let's watch this. This is done all the time at hearings where Republicans are being asked questions.
Would you follow the orders of the president, yes or no?
The president, you like to insinuate that the president issues
it's
illegal orders,
which he hasn't
and does not.
Who would you follow, the president or the Constitution?
I will note that in 2024, troops were deployed. That was Joe Biden, by the way. Joe Biden were deployed to polling locations in 15 states. 2024, Joe Biden, troops deployed to polling locations in 15 states. Explain that one to me.
All right, there you go. I'll explain it. There were 15 states. Troops went there. These were National Guard troops, and they were asked to go there by the governors of those 15 states, not Joe Biden. He had nothing to do with it at all. Not Joe Biden. They can't stop talking about Joe Biden. Anyway, the National Guard troops were sent to these polling places because there were bomb threats and death threats. That's why the National Guard was called out in each and every one of those 15 states. Just thought I'd clear the record here. All right, now let's get to Hakeem Jeffries, what he is spreading out there. Dangerous lies, horrible, violent rhetoric. At least that's according to Donald Trump. Let's watch.
I heard Hakeem Jeffries, a low IQ person. He's a very low IQ. Screaming today that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. I mean, that's a dangerous statement.
It is?
If I say something, the Democrats on the...
Okay, so now we're going to see a bunch of clips where it's not Hakeem Jeffries saying things about the justices, endangering them by criticizing them. I don't understand that at all, but I think that was the point. Anyway, this is now a lot of clips where Trump is actually endangering the justices by saying not so nice things.
Courts are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often. with certain members of this court, and it's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular, when in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats, and not that they should have anything at all to do with it.
Wow.
They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution.
Well, what do you do to people like
Republicans,
that?
Judges and justices, they always want to show that they're independent. I don't care if Trump appointed me. I don't care. If he doesn't make any difference to me, I'm voting against him because they want to show their independence. You know, stupid people.
Yep, stupid people. I guess that's a death threat right there. So there you go. Hakeem Jeffries, a little criticism of the recent decision going against the Voting Rights Act. But again, we have videotape of Trump tearing these guys apart because they're not totally loyal like his administrative staff. Now let's get to something I think that is important to each and every one of us, and that is the gas prices at the pump. I made a really, really, really good decision when I used the rebate check for an EV that was being phased out by Trump. He didn't want EVs to be sold anymore, so he got rid of the rebates. And this was for a used vehicle, so it was a $4,000 rebate. I thought I'd use that, and I got an EV. Now I don't have to wait in line trying to get gas at a high, high price. So this is what's going on right now. I just got lucky, that's all. But across the Great Lakes region, the average price per gallon has jumped well above $4. That includes Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, which has generally remained below $4 a gallon. In Illinois, by the way, the statewide average is just 1 cent above $5 as of Wednesday afternoon. The statewide average price for a gallon had hit $4.79 in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. In Wisconsin, where we're broadcasting from, Madison, the average was $4.29, well below the $4.99 seen in Illinois, a little over $5 now. So here's CNBC correcting. Now, this is wild because this is the conservative guy, the host. I don't watch it very often, so I don't know his name. But it's the host who is basically questioning Steve Scalise, Representative Steve Scalise. He's lying about the price of gasoline during the Biden administration, as usual, right? And he's trying to correct him. So let's watch.
Friendly to the GOP's chances for holding the House. I mean, even the Senate is somewhat questionable. I don't know if you put any stock in that, but do you think there's any way that your party holds on in November to the House?
Absolutely. And look, it's a path that is focused on turnout, number one, and delivery. What we've delivered to finally start turning this mess around that we inherited a year and a half ago. People that will remember, you go back 2 years ago, we were paying almost $6 a gallon for gasoline. Right now it's in the threes. Obviously, we've seen a jump with the Iran conflict.
When were we paying $6?
Still 50. Well, 2.5 years ago.
I don't think we were.
That wasn't the average where we are now. We're over 30% below where we were just 2 years ago.
Must have been on vacation in California. I think 2 years ago in April of 2024, we were at about 365. So we're actually above where we were then. And I'm not.
No, we were well into the fives under Biden. Well into the fives.
At one point, not 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We were at 365. Shut down. Energy in the Gulf of America was shut down. Alaska was shut down. We opened that up, by the way, in the Working Families Tax
But 2 years ago,
that's
the average was
production now.
Exactly 2 years ago, the average was 365 to 367. And I'm not saying that $4 or whatever it is now, that the long-term goals that we're trying to accomplish in the Middle East, I'm not saying it's not worth it for a brief time, but it's definitely going to hurt people, obviously, this summer. if you're paying a lot. Andrew was telling me you're going to stay home at this point, right?
Well, I do think you're going to see a resolution to that conflict.
You think? Someday. Yeah, of course, we'll see a resolution to that. I remember, after COVID, when everybody started getting back out, they got the checks in the mail from the government, and they started driving around, and there was a gas shortage. And that raised the price of gas dramatically. I think we even went into the reserves, if I'm not mistaken, to keep the prices down just a little bit and to help out the gas shortage because no one was buying it for at least a year. So it was a problem for the oil industry. That's what happened, and he's going way, way back. I think 2022, I believe. So not a year and a half ago. Thank you, Squawk Box, for that one. I'm John Peterson. This is Media World Extra. We had a lot of extra stories today. We'll try to survive another day and be back again tomorrow.